I need to brush my teeth.
How's Annie? How's Annie?
Twin Peaks. David Lynch and Mark Frost's tale of a small town with dark secrets. I can think of no finer work on screen which so artfully explores the light and shade of human nature, and indeed, the shadow self. But although this incredible TV show is the first thing that leaps to my mind when I think of the darker side of the human condition, there are many more fine examples of works which explore this theme. So in this video, we'll journey into the depths of the human psyche, exploring the concept of the shadow self through the lens of David Lynch's cult classic, Twin Peaks. We'll also dive into other film and TV examples to uncover how this intriguing psychological concept is portrayed across different narratives. I'm Tom D. Mann, and this is Twin Peaks Presents, a guide to the shadow self.
Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery with the Hubble Space Telescope.
كافية بأن الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية.
And do what? All the power jobs are taken.
Get out of the way, fat dudes! It's the Turtles Party Wagon!
ABC's Twin Peaks first hit American TV sets in April 1990 and quickly became a cultural sensation.
Since you are watching us, chances are you watched the ABC's program Twin Peaks tonight, and you probably wonder who killed Laura Palmer.
Louis Monaco spent years as a New York City police detective and says he thinks he knows who killed Laura Palmer.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here, and it's an honor to be hosting the opening show of Saturday Night Live.
And, of course, the guy responsible for Twin Peaks over there at ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the program, David Lynch. David!
The old question was who shot JR? The new question is who killed Laura Palmer? It's the big question this year.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
The story centres around wholesome but quirky hero FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper and his quest to solve the murder of homecoming queen Laura Palmer. But for me, that's not really what this show is all about. My introduction to Twin Peaks took place on Tuesday, the 11th of June, 1991, at the very end of its first run on British TV, courtesy of BBC Two. As I watched this strange programme that I'd stumbled across on that small TV in my bedroom, without any idea as to what was actually going on, I was hooked. There was just something about this show which meant that I had to keep watching. And by the end of that season 2 finale, it left me asking one question for the next 26 years. And it wasn't, how's Annie? But before we come back to that question, let's take a look at the concept of the shadow self, as conceived by psychiatrist Carl Jung. According to Jung, all of us have stuff that we're not very proud of. Maybe we don't acknowledge it. Sometimes, perhaps, we even hide it. And by stuff, I mean, sure, things that we do, but mainly things that we feel. Each one of us, to a lesser or greater degree, projects a sort of ideal image, both for the benefit of other people, but mainly to protect ourselves. Or at least, that's what we think we're doing. The bits that at best don't neatly fit that perfect persona, or at worst, perhaps cause us shame, we tend to either deny or hide. And where does that unwanted stuff go? Well, according to Jung, it doesn't really go anywhere. It just follows us around, in our shadow. And if that shadow gets too big or too dark, it can kind of mess you up. Special Agent Dale Cooper may be the protagonist of Twin Peaks, but he's not the main character of this story.
The kind of story that we wanted to tell, where the town is a character, its principal character. The fact that we found the town itself intact was really kind of astonishing.
Yep, that's right. The very town of Twin Peaks is the story's central character. At first glance, it has a wonderfully bucolic quality with its Douglas fir trees, lush waterfall and small town bonhomie. But all that is merely surface, what Jung would call the persona or the mask. Lying in the town's shadow are all the things that it's ashamed of. Corruption, domestic abuse, drug trafficking, prostitution, and of course, murder. Jung said that the reason we repress certain aspects of ourselves is because we consider them evil, socially unacceptable, harmful to others, or detrimental to our own health. Certainly the health of the town's tourist economy would be harmed by such criminal behaviour. So, sticking with the idea of Twin Peaks as a character, it stands to reason that the town would protect itself by denying any of this stuff ever happened. It could be argued that this denial of the town's shadow is what gives power to the evil in the woods, known by its other name as the Black Lodge. Superman 3 teaches us a common misconception about the shadow self. There's a scene where Superman is not feeling quite himself, having inadvertently been exposed to some rather dodgy kryptonite. After some unruly behaviour, he has this kind of breakdown in a junkyard and fractures into two entities, evil Superman and virtuous Clark Kent. I first saw this film as a 4-year-old kid in July 1983 at the cinema with my dad. I was the biggest Superman fan I knew, and I was incredibly excited. When it came out on VHS, I must have watched it well over 100 times. And even now as an adult, I still find myself watching this scene on YouTube from time to time. But here's where it gets interesting, because in making this video, I've realised that I've had this scene wrong in my head for the past 40 years. You see, I've always felt that evil Superman is Clark Kent's shadow. He thinks and behaves in a destructive manner. He taps into what we might call dark energy. Exactly the sort of behaviour that Clark or good Superman would deny and hide. But as a point of actual fact, it's completely the other way round. Clark is evil Superman's shadow. Clark represents all the virtuous, kind and compassionate qualities that evil Superman is trying to suppress, because evil Superman perceives those qualities as weaknesses. That's what drives him to have the breakdown in the first place, and therein lies the key to understanding Jung's shadow. What we perceive as unwanted character traits is entirely subjective. It's not that what each one of us denies or hides is fundamentally bad. It's just that for one reason or another, we think that it's bad. I can think of few dramatic conceits that have such clear imagery as the White Lodge, a place of great goodness, and the Black Lodge, to use Hawke's words,
the shadow self of the White Lodge.
It's in the Red Room of the Black Lodge where we see Dale Cooper's maniacal blue-eyed doppelganger chasing him around. This for me is undeniably Cooper's shadow self. But what is it that Cooper's repressing? And how is this feeding his shadow? Throughout season 1, Special Agent Dale Cooper appears to be a very well-rounded, if slightly eccentric, good guy hero type, very comfortable in his own skin. In season 2, however, we start to see a different side to Coops, exposed when his former partner turned deranged psychopath Windom Earle hits town, prompting a revelation to Sheriff Truman.
Caroline was Windom Earle's wife.
He blames you for her death.
It's much worse than that. I think he killed her. And I think he committed the crime that she originally witnessed.
So it seems that Cooper harbours a great deal of shame and remorse over both Caroline's death, but also the events leading up to it. After all, he had an affair with his partner's wife, and she paid the ultimate price at the hands of her husband. Adding to this sense of shame is his fear of Windom Earle, a man whose intellect he is in awe of, but also whose evil knows no bounds.
You don't know what he's capable of, Harry. You don't know.
Fear and shame, the perfect fodder for the shadow self. In John Thorne's authoritative The Essential Wrapped in Plastic, he hits the nail on the head when he says that the division of Cooper into two halves is caused by his failure to face the Red Room with full courage.
There, you will meet your own shadow self. If you confront the Black Lodge with imperfect courage, it will utterly annihilate your soul.
And so it is that the living embodiment of these primal emotions, fear and shame, that Cooper has worked so hard to repress, Caroline, Annie, Windom Earle and the malevolent Bob, all appear to him immediately before the entrance of his blue-eyed shadow self in the season 2 finale. If you too were watching that first run, then you were probably asking yourself the same question. What happened to Cooper next? And how did he deal with his shadow self? We'd have to wait until 2017 to find out. In 1980's Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker must face the Cave of Dagobah as part of his Jedi training. Luke enters the cave only to encounter his nemesis, Darth Vader. Lightsabers are drawn and battle ensues. Luke wins the encounter, not only defeating Vader, but also removing his head in the process. But then, Vader's mask explodes, revealing a disembodied face staring up at Luke from the ground. The face that Luke sees is his own. To make sense of this, we need to go back to the start of the scene. Before Luke enters the cave, Yoda tells us everything we need to know. Luke asks,
What's in there?
And Yoda tells him,
Only what you take with you.
Only what you take in with you. This reminds me of the fable of the Buddhist monk who wants to meditate and needs somewhere quiet where he won't be disturbed. He goes out on a boat into the middle of a lake, closes his eyes, and begins his meditation. But soon he's interrupted. He feels a jolt and hears the sound of another boat bumping into his. He opens his eyes, furious, and cries out, "Who disturbed me while I was meditating?" He turns around, ready to give this person both barrels. But what he sees is an empty boat that's drifted with the current. Just like the Buddhist monk with the empty boat, what Luke perceives as his enemy, Vader, is really an illusion, because Luke's real enemy is within himself. Now, the world of Twin Peaks, by its very nature, is wildly open to interpretation, and that, of course, is part of its charm. But if we are to view the events of Season 3 through the lens of Jung's philosophy, what I like to think is that in Episode 17, where the two manifestations of pupa meet, what we're seeing is the integration of his shadow. In order to explain this concept, we first need to take a look at another groundbreaking TV show.
You got one part of that wrong.
Breaking Bad shows us what it is to integrate one's shadow.
This is not meth.
Walter White is an unassuming yet overqualified chemistry teacher who decides to radically change the course of his life after being diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Before his transformation, Walter does all the right things according to societal norms, but by suppressing certain traits, he is effectively a doormat, disrespected by his high school class, working a second job at a car wash to supplement his income. Walter is trapped in what Nietzsche termed the morality of cowardice. What he tells himself is moral virtue is merely his fear of doing anything that society would deem inappropriate. It dawns on him that by denying his shadow all these years, it's actually been holding him back. Once he knows his days are numbered, it frees Walter's mind because he knows he has nothing to lose. The rest of the show, of course, is predicated on Walter's journey in embracing and integrating these shadowy parts of himself that he's kept hidden for all this time. On his terms, he becomes very successful, creating a drug empire and making a lot of money in the process. As Jung said, "I'd rather be whole than good." Jung believed that embracing the shadow self is essential for achieving psychological balance, or what he called individuation. He saw the shadow not as something to be banished, but as a valuable part of our inner world that, when integrated, brings a sense of completeness.
And he kept a roof over my head, and he kept food on the table. And most importantly, he said that if I accepted responsibility for my wrongdoings, and if I embraced that part of my soul that was ugly, hugging the cactus, he calls it, he said that if I hugged the cactus long enough, I'd become a man of some humility, and that my life would take on a new meaning. And I did, and it worked. By acknowledging and doing the inner work to reconcile these darker hidden parts, we can achieve wholeness. As author Robert A. Johnson explains, this process isn't about becoming perfect, but about accepting all facets of our psyche, light and dark, to live more authentically and fully. Of course, Breaking Bad does not have a happy ending, because Walter does not achieve a sense of balance. Walter goes beyond integrating his shadow and instead creates a new one. Rather than suppressing his anger and ruthless ambition as he does at the very start of the show,
he ends up denying his kindness and compassion to the detriment of his whole life. But what about Cooper? Did he manage to integrate his shadow? Well, hear me out, because I think that in episode 17 of season 3, that's exactly what he does. Think about this. A shadow thrives when hidden. Hidden not only to oneself, but also to others. But in the sheriff's office, for the very first time, Cooper and his shadow self are revealed to other people in the same place. There is no more hiding for Mr. C. Whereas in the Red Room during the season 2 finale, where Cooper was isolated and afraid, in the sheriff's office he is exposed, yes, but that gives him the courage and the freedom to seek help from other people. And indeed it's Freddy who comes to his aid, vanquishing Bob. Bob, whose malevolence has twisted Cooper's shadow self into what becomes Mr. C. Bob, whose very existence thrives on being hidden in the shadows. Cooper slips the ring on Mr. C's finger. Mr. C disappears. The ring is all that's left. The ring goes back to the Red Room. The shadow has been integrated. Well, that's my theory anyway. Let's face it, it's Twin Peaks. It's anyone's guess.